Greetings, my friends. How are you this evening? So, today is Monday, the 23rd, and I'm hoping that the story of Blind Beauty, my book, hopefully being published in November, hopefully around the 20th, something I'm super excited about. I'm super happy that I got to write this story. It took about 2 to 3 years. And I'm hoping that we finish up and finalize it within the month here. Illustrations are being done. I love the cover. I think that it is very, very beautiful. And yeah, be looking for this on Amazon hopefully. And I'm gonna try and do a reading for you now. Obviously a month in advance, so you're probably gonna get it at a different time. I'll probably upload this video to YouTube on my channel. And you guys can hear it from my own voice, the author's own voice. I'm going to try and do this as good as I can. Bear with me. Obviously, you can read it however fast or slow you want, out loud or to yourself. I like reading out loud. I read the Bible out loud. I read a lot of books out loud to get the tone and the flow of the story. So hopefully you can hear it in my voice and read it however you want. But here it is, the story of Blind Beauty. In a royal realm, there lived a newlywed king. He and his wife enjoyed their love, their wedding, and their first new moon together. Upon the royal couple's return to their thrones, a young man appeared before the king's courts, requesting an audience with the king. The royal guards and court ministers questioned the man, and upon thorough examination let the man into the king's presence. The young man was a prophet, or, in olden times, what kings used to call a seer. This prophet or seer was well known and wise, and had the respect of many of the king's loyal subjects. When the king saw him, in his joy, he welcomed him kindly, yet he could see, by the look on the man's face, that he brought the king a serious and somber message. The king's countenance changed, and, in his heart, he prepared to hear ill news, yet still he had hope. The seer said with clear and respectful words, "O king, live forever, but hear now my words. The Creator has declared to me that your kingdom has been cursed, and that a great evil has befallen your realm and your lands, and yes, even to the womb of your love. Behold, your firstborn carried in the queen's womb shall be a girl of exceeding beauty, and hers shall be unlike any before in the world of men. But though her beauty shall surpass that of even the stars in the sky, she will be born blind. And after her birth, the womb of your wife will be shut. But there is hope, my lord. Hope that the curse of your kingdom will be broken, and that your line and your love will endure. The man who chooses to marry your most beautiful daughter will himself become blind, but he will lift the curse. That is what I know, O king. What I have said, and I run not from your wrath, nor from your tears. For as the young man spoke, he saw pain, anger, and mournful tears falling from the king's face. Many words, questions, and long conversations were had between the king and the young man before the king ordered his arrest. The young man was sentenced to a year in prison in a great dungeon of the realm. It was done to see if his word was true, but he was not to be ill-treated or tortured, As spring became summer, and summer to winter, the queen's belly grew. And at the turning of the new year, she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. And as the weeks passed, they saw that she was exceedingly beautiful and completely blind. And love and sorrow grew greatly in the king's heart. The young man was released and given freedom, and though it pained the king, he requested that the seer remain in his city to give the king his counsel whenever he had need of it. The seer eventually befriended the king and his family and became a respected court attendant. The years passed, and as the young seer said, the king had no more children. Yet year after year, his daughter became more and more beautiful. Beauty. The king named his daughter Fea Yafe, which sounds like Fea Yafe. Her name meant beauty of the Lord, or the Lord is beautiful. He and his wife, the queen, cared for their daughter in her blindness and tried to let her live with joy and peace without letting her inability frustrate them or her. Fea became not only most beautiful but very wise. And her father, the king, saw that her inability to see actually made his daughter even more lovely. For beauty among women who can see causes jealousy and pride and envy and malice. And yet because his daughter could not see herself, she was spared from many temptations that other women who could see fell victim to. She became humble, obviously needing help herself with many things, but she also became very kind and good at listening and caring for the people she grew to know, including the seer who foretold her birth. Throughout her youth and teenage years, she learned many crafts, how to work and make things with her hands, and she became an inquisitive listener and learner. She loved gardening, walking, swimming, exercising, singing, and making music, relaxing by a fire in the cool of night, and listening to and telling wonderful stories. Whenever the king held court, the queen and his daughter were summoned, and as she listened, Fea discerned good and evil, right from wrong. Fea Yafe received wisdom as she learned about love, judgment, justice, mercy, kindness, generosity, reconciliation, and redemption. She was most compassionate toward the poor, for she was moved with loving pity as she heard their stories, and would even plead with her father on their behalf to help the people that sounded the most desperate, and at the same time, genuine. And when her father had not the resources, she would help some of them to her own detriment. Fea became so good at listening that she could actually hear the tone of sincerity in a person's voice and discern it. She could also hear the difference in the tones of liars and thieves and murderers. She thus learned how to distinguish good and evil in people. And she learned to trust truth and by truth judge the words and tones she heard. Throughout the years, many people from foreign kingdoms came to the courts of the king, and when they beheld Princess Fea Yafe, They were truly amazed, even mystified. It is amazing to meet a blind person, seeing someone who cannot see you, seeing someone who cannot see. It humbles you in a way that my words don't fully explain. So, when people would see Fea, that she was not only blind, but most beautiful and wise among women, they began to greatly desire her. Indeed, the story of the blind beauty spread to lands and kingdoms far beyond, but so too did the rumors and knowledge of the curse. The king made the story known to the traveling foreigners that when Fea turned 21, she would be able to become a bride. He had it proclaimed to them and to everyone in his kingdom that he would give his daughter to any man of noble or common birth, so long as he was good and willing to become blind. For that is what the seer said would happen to the man who would marry Fea. Well, the year of her 21st birthday came, and it went. And many a man came to look upon the blind beauty, but none dared to lose his sight. In fact, every man of marrying age in the king's kingdom came to behold the princess, and each, when they saw her, were amazed and mystified. Yet each, after looking and seriously considering, decided they would rather keep their sight. The king was disheartened, and even Fea's heart felt unwanted. She, like any young virgin, had desire, but she obviously didn't judge a man by his appearance. She was aware of the things unseen, namely, the things of one's heart. 4 more years passed, and with each year there came fewer and fewer visitors, or what kings called potential suitors. Hope itself almost seemed lost now to the king, but not to Fea. She knew in her heart that the Creator gave her life for a reason, and that her blindness, to a certain extent, had been a gift to her. She heard much flattery and talk and hearsay about how she looked, but she knew in her heart what that led to. And she purposed to focus on what she could feel because, well, she was blind. And for a blind person, feeling is very, very important. She didn't allow her heart to become corrupted by her beauty. She was pure-hearted and beautiful inwardly and outwardly. And that should be enough for any man to marry. But men, many men, are selfish. Fea learned that the curse of her father's kingdom was that men had become corrupt, greedy, lustful, unloving, and selfish. She knew in her heart that loving someone wholeheartedly was a sacrifice. And thus she learned that the young men of their kingdom were not willing to love her the way she deserved. And because of that, she wept. She wept with hope. Many things I could write and say about the mind of Fea, even more about the heart of Fea. But what remained true of both of them during her time of long suffering was this: she kept them pure, and therefore she remained the most beautiful. In a land far away from her father's kingdom, a young prince heard her story and was, like all other men, fascinated by it. His father, a Vai king of the north, heard the story from one of his faithful heralds, whom he sent to the courts of Phaea's father, to thus behold the blind beauty with his own eyes. The messenger who beheld Phaea, like many others, was mystified in wonder of her beauty, and of the curse of a once great kingdom. After a time, the messenger returned north to the halls of his king, and there he informed the Northmen of the mysterious and yet wonderful tragedy. He told them the story of the blind beauty. Upon hearing the tale told in full, the eldest prince of the Northmen asked leave of his liege to seek out and see this blind beauty. And, if God so willed, even to betroth himself to her. The prince's name was Beothane, a young but mighty prince of the far northern realm. He and his loyal brother set out at the waning of summer to seek the realm of Phaea's father. Over sea and over land they came, traveling through perilous seas and mighty woods. They reached the realm of the blind beauty 3.5 months after they set out. As they beheld the land, they imagined with great wonder and anticipation of the beauty of this king's daughter. For the land was also gloriously beautiful in the men's eyes. Up through a great ring of high mountains they climbed, filled with the scent of tall and ancient pines. And down they went into a peaceful valley filled with gentle streams and flowing rivers, farmers' fields and hillside cottages. And at the far end of the eastern ring of mountains, there they beheld from a great distance the towers and walls of the king's city, Deorot, in the land of the pine-lying mountain. For at that far end of the mountain ring range grew a great and mighty peak. To the Northmen, and especially to Beothane, the sight of the peak of Pine-Rine Mountain looked like a great jewel that shined upon the land, giving majesty. They camped at the crest of the pass for the night, observing the land and his beauty. They also beheld a long yet narrow lake in the middle of the great valley. It was many miles before the gates. It looked calm, still, like glass. They also could see the king's highway that seemed to weave its way to the gates of the city in the valley below. The men ate, spoke, and watched the fire and the shining stars. And after their night's rest, they journeyed for 3 more days, taking their time to enjoy the land they beheld before reaching the city gates of Deorot. King Friedrich, the father of Phaea, heard news of the Northmen's coming. He prepared to gather his court on noon of the 4th day of October, which was the day after the Northmen arrived at the gates of Deorot. Beothane and his followers took counsel together and found their rest in the king's city. the Northmen were informed by the seer that they would meet with the king in his court on the morrow at noon. That night, Beothane prayed in the tongue of his people to the God of all earth. What he spoke was deep and powerful, pure and true. And when his words were finished, he listened in silence. Still and sure. After a time, Beothane knew in his heart that what he would see would change his life forever. And so it was, on that morrow at noon, that Beothane and his friends entered the courts of the king and beheld him and his family. As they entered, they bowed with their heads with one knee to the ground. And after they arose, Beothane spoke thus: "Hail, Friedrich, son of Wilhelm, king of Deoroth! I am Beothane, son of King Threodor of the far northern realm. These are my loyal companions, thanes as good as brothers, and warriors like myself. We come to seek and to see your daughter, fair Yafe, the blind beauty as told by our herald." Then King Friedrich arose from his throne and greeted his guests kindly with a smile. And renewed hope in his heart, he gestured with his hand for them to approach, and so they did. To the king's right sat the queen, fair like the moon. To his left sat the princess, whose beauty shined like the stars above. When Beothane first saw her, his heart seemed to leap as it beat inside him. Yet he stopped and became as still as stone. Poems of his clan had been sung of women whose beauty was far lesser than that which he now beheld. And in that moment, he knew that he looked upon the fairest face among women that he would ever see. And he breathed deeply, inhaling glory and exhaling wonder at the sight of the blind beauty. King Friedrich had seen men's expressions many times before when they looked upon his daughter for the first time, and Beothane's was not unlike the others. At first, he looked sad, even mournful. Then, raising his eyebrows, he seemed compassionate with longing and wonder. Which then led to a small yet gentle smile that formed on his lips and remained there. When Fea was informed that Beothane was seeing her. She smiled with her teeth seemingly gleaming, and so smiled Bealtaine with his teeth showing. It was the most beautiful sight his eyes had ever seen. Surpassing the seas, surpassing the trees, mountains, and yes, surpassing even the stars in the sky. Surpassing even the stars. Bealtaine closed his eyes gently and bowed his head softly toward the princess in honored reverence, still smiling with his teeth showing. He then turned to her father and spoke, "I have now looked upon that which is fairest among women. Would you allow me to speak to your daughter, O King of Beauty?" The king solemnly nodded and said yes. The grace with which Bealtaine spoke to Fea is comparable to the sound of the cardinal songbird of spring after winter's end. He sounded like a man who longs for love. Fea the fairest, I have traveled over land and sea to behold thy beauty. And I have thought long and well about what I now say to you. Love to me has been like a rare jewel hidden in the earth. I have not found it, yet I know and believe that it exists. So my heart has dared to endeavor to find that for which it longs. Even you, O princess daughter. In my father's kingdom, there are many fair women, blonde and beautiful. But their hearts corrupt, and thus their beauty turns to shame. Sin in their hearts and minds blinds them even as they see, and love among them is altogether forgotten. Love is pure. Its will waits, and it suffers long for that which it desires to receive. I have kept myself pure among my people, and have not lusted after vain beauty, yet my heart was made to desire it. Beauty, beauty that is pure, beauty that is true. Hear now my word, oh my love, for those sightless, yet you may see. I have a poem for thee, a revelation of my heart to woo you, even unto myself, that you may know me, respect me, trust me, and come to love me without fear. And Bealtaine said thus, what is a lily to the sun? What is beauty that is seen? What is the song left unsung? What is virtue, O my queen? Where is wisdom found among women? Where is she who is rarer than jewels? Where in her heart is it hidden? Where sits the queen who rules? Why do flowers fade and die. Why do mothers sing and cry? Why is love our heart's desire? And why are we drawn to the glowing fire? When will you come, O love? When will you be forever mine? When sun is dark and moon is dim, when stars refrain to shine. Who is this whom my soul loves? And who is she that I see? Who can have all of love? Who is this? Can it be? As Beltane spoke, 2 tears gently fell down along both sides of the fair face of Fair. For in her heart she heard the voice of the love she had so longed for, that she had hoped for. And as he had finished speaking, he gazed intently at the glistening tear lines and listened. Fair said, "My heart is ached, my heart is longed, my heart has waited to hear your precious words, my Lord and my love, and I receive them with tears of joy." And Beltane thought, sometimes tears are worth more than thousands of words. And he closed his eyes, smiled, and bowed his head yet again to the princess. "Fair," he said softly, "I do betroth myself unto you now, this day. But grant that I may look upon you for 1 year before we wed, that I may enjoy my sight of you, that we may talk and walk together in love before my sight is gone, and what must be, will be." She smiled again, and so began the love and courtship of Fair Yafe and Beltane. As they parted that day, Beltane sang a song to the princess, and as he did, his men hummed a patterned chant of an ancient Norse hymn. The sound was deep, like the sea waves reaching the rocks of the shore, yet kind, like the happy song of birds in springtime. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. She shines like the sun, bright as the moon, beautiful like stars in the sky. She fair as the day, yet mysterious like the night, still giving her light. She more awesome than ships on the high sea, sailing with banners. He sang slow and softly, with deep power and reverence, and free exhales. The year came and went, and with each passing day, their love grew purer and stronger. Beothane learned what life was like for his blind beloved. But in her beauty, he saw his destiny and faced his future without fear. For he knew that his love was true and sure, and in that he felt peace. The month of their union came, and with it great jubilation and wondrous mystery. For no one knew what the lifting of the curse would mean for their kingdom, or, for that matter, how soon after they wed that their new prince would become blind. The two of them had many conversations about how they would care for one another after their marriage. They talked about faithfulness, children. They talked about faithfulness, children, leadership, God, love, submission, protecting trust, forgiveness, peace, maintaining purity, keeping faith, grace, rule, order, work, discipline, child rearing, dreams, goals, food, friendship, fun, fellowship, finances, cleaning, traveling, respecting one another, humility, service, legacy, and so many other things, not least of all what it meant for each of them to sacrifice for one another. Obviously, Beothane was making a huge sacrifice to marry Phea, Yahweh, but it was a sacrifice that he believed was worth it. His loss was also one of his greatest gains. However, Not all things in the future are foreseen by men. They knew their love would be tested and tempted, and they did not know in what ways. They knew that their love would be tested and tempted, but they did not know in what ways. From the north hearkened 30 ships filled with Bealthane's kinsmen. A mighty throng of people set sail to celebrate and honor the love and sacrifice of their worthy lord. Among that host was King Theodore, who brought with him gold in abundance and mead for merriment, to thus bless his beloved son's union. He also gave to his son a rare ring, fashioned for the hand of fair Yaffe. It was made in homage of his lineage, in the beauty and style of ancient northern chieftains who gave rings to their loyal lovers, the maidens of old. Freya's family gathered as well, and King Friedrich proclaimed that all in his kingdom be summoned to Deorot the week preceding the day of their marriage. He further ordered that a great festival of feasting, games, dancing, drinking, and music-making be held during that whole week. The people came in droves, thousands upon thousands, yes, tens of thousands from all over the country. And no greater party was had prior or hence in Deorot. At last, the destined day dawned, the wedding of Wad, as some men have called it. The ceremony was glorious. Freya was clothed with white, bright and pure. Bealthane wore white as well. He looked handsomely mighty as he beheld the face of his beloved. The seer himself presided at their wedding, which made Freya especially glad, for he was a very dear friend to her. Sacred words were said, tears were shed, and the rings were given. They kissed. God was seen. God was honored. And the final celebration began with the roaring of a jubilant crowd. They walked, danced, ate and drank, told stories, heard stories, laughed with friends. Took in the sunset in all its shining glory. Felt its warmth. And hugged their parents as well as their friends. They sang songs of praise, listened to music, and held each other's hands. They were married on the high hill, overlooking the walls before the valley of Deorot. On that hill was a great stone courtyard surrounded by a wonderful pine tree garden with fountains and streams, fish pools, and flowers. After all the festivities of the celebration settled, Bealthane took Freya in his arms and carried her to the great tower on the crest of that beautiful hill, overlooking the whole city of Deorot, as well as the whole bowl of mountains making up the Pine Rhine mountain range. And there, in that tower, on that day, the two became one. And when they were one, a miracle happened. Fea's eyes welled with loving tears. And when they fell from her face, she could see. When Beothane breathed gently toward her face, he wiped away her tears and smiled and welcomed her new sense with great joy. She was in awe. He, Beothane, did not expect that his wife would see. And he did not know how long his sight would last. Neither of them longed for sleep that night. But instead, they held each other close and gazed, it seemed, ever more deeply into each other's eyes. With the joy of sight came many new delights for Fea. But Beothane warned her of many great evils and temptations to come. He was the first person she saw. And he, to her, was like a mirror. Which reflects glory. Eventually, Beothane showed Fea a mirror, and she beheld herself for the first time. Her identity all her life was focused inwardly toward her heart. But now, for the first time, she knew sin and beauty in a different way. She now knew the temptation of pride that she had previously, to a great extent, been spared from. The lust of the eyes that so easily leads hearts astray from love. Was now felt in her heart. But there, on that night, though change was sudden and miraculous, and the future implications of that change were being carefully considered and thought out, they decided to be thankful to God and to focus themselves on that which is pure. And so they did. And thus their joy was fulfilled. Now when night lengthened and sleep set into his most beautiful wife, Beothane watched her and comforted her as she slept so peacefully. He watched her breathe in and out with a loving gaze. And as he tired, he fought the sleep, for he knew in his heart what was destined to be. And when he couldn't fight it anymore, he leaned over, kissed his wife's forehead ever so gently, then rested his head near hers. He closed his eyes and fell asleep. Asleep and in love. As morning dawned, he awoke to darkness. He was blind. Blind and in love. And there for now is the end of my tale. But what remains? Many questions. So many questions. How should this story end? Happily ever after? Faithfully? With both couples seeing? What is the price of sight? What is sight worth? What does it mean to see? How can joy be fulfilled when temptation threatens its existence? Where does beauty come from? And why does it exist? What is beauty's relationship to purity? What is love's relationship to vulnerability? What is a rock to the waves of the sea? Who wins the fight? Pride versus humility. Are there rocks that cannot be broken? Is love really stronger than death? Is love really stronger than death? Yes. What is the difference between the fire that destroys and the fire that gives life? When will faith become sight? What is seeing your lover really worth? Where can a man and a woman find security in love? How can they find security in love? Why does love get tested, tempted, and tried? God's image is beautiful. But why does it get tested? Why does God allow his beautiful image to be broken? Can something be broken and then built back stronger and more beautiful than before? Think about Jesus, the cross, and his bride. May the Holy Spirit give you insight, comfort, and hope through this story. Amen. Amen. And remember, even when we are unfaithful, God remains faithful. Grace and peace to you in Jesus Christ. Your brother in the Lord, Alexander James Wiese. Peace. I hope you liked the reading, and I hope you love the story. Peace to you. I love you, my friends.